You're overlooking the most significant financial backer in your existence. And I can demonstrate this with a single statement. Every couple of weeks, someone transfers thousands of dollars into your account, requesting nothing beyond your time commitment. Yet you're treating this arrangement like a cash dispenser, rather than recognizing it as a venture capital partnership designed to generate your wealth. I'm Rob, and I've dedicated the past decade observing individuals accidentally accumulate wealth while believing they were merely fulfilling job obligations. The mathematics are so straightforward they're almost offensive, yet the majority completely overlook them. They're positioned atop a wealth generation mechanism while complaining about financial stagnation. Let me reveal something that will fundamentally transform how you perceive that position you've been enduring. Your employer isn't simply distributing a salary. They're functioning as a private equity operation with you as their portfolio investment, offering you terms that would make any startup founder envious. But unlike those founders who actually scrutinize term sheets, you are signing onboarding paperwork while contemplating lunch options. Let's begin with the most blatant example of complementary capital you're likely abandoning, the 401k matching program. Your organization declares they'll contribute $1 for every dollar you invest, up to 6% of your compensation. That's a guaranteed 100% investment return the instant funds arrive in your account. Locate a hedge fund manager who can promise such returns. You cannot, because that individual doesn't exist and would face legal consequences for making such claims. But here's what's devastating. Roughly 1/3 of employees with 401k match access don't contribute sufficiently to capture the complete amount. They're literally declining 100% ROI because they feel unable to invest currently. That's equivalent to refusing a vendor wanting to pay you double for your product because you're too preoccupied trying to generate income. The reasoning is inverted. Now, if you're thinking, Rob, I can barely cover rent, how am I supposed to contribute 6%? I understand. We'll address that. But first, comprehend what you're actually doing when skipping the match. You're not merely missing supplementary money. You're refusing a capital infusion from a backer attempting to fund your liberation strategy. Let me frame this in business terminology. Imagine launching a company. An investor approaches, declaring, for every dollar of your personal capital you invest in this venture, I'll add $1 of mine. No equity required, no board position, just free capital. You'd execute that agreement so rapidly the pen would ignite. That's the 401k match, and you're ignoring the investor.
But it improves or worsens depending on your attention level. The health savings account represents possibly the greatest legal tax advantage in the American financial framework, and virtually nobody utilizes it correctly. Contributions enter pre-tax, growth occurs tax-free, and withdrawals for medical purposes emerge tax-free. That's a triple tax benefit on a single account. Most individuals treat their HSA like a transaction account for minor medical expenses. They're using a supercar to retrieve mail. The actual approach is maximizing HSA contributions, never accessing the funds, covering medical expenses from other sources, and allowing that account to expand for 3 decades. Then, in retirement, you possess a reservoir of tax-free capital while others pay taxes on traditional retirement accounts. You've constructed a tax shelter using organizational benefits. We haven't discussed education reimbursement yet. A surprising number of organizations will allocate thousands of dollars annually for you to acquire new capabilities, obtain certifications, or even complete degree programs. This isn't philanthropy. They're investing in human capital enhancement because a more skilled employee generates greater value. But here's the critical point. Those capabilities are transferable. You can take that company-funded education and apply it anywhere. This constitutes a grant. In the startup ecosystem, founders exert tremendous effort pursuing grants because it's capital you needn't repay and don't surrender equity for. Your employer offers you grants and you're not even submitting applications. Consider this perspective. If you work for an organization offering $5,000 in annual education benefits and you don't utilize it, you've abandoned $5,000.
Do that for 5 years and you've missed $25,000 in complementary skill development. That's not negligible. That's a house down payment you didn't accumulate. Now let's expand perspective, because the explicit benefits are merely the foundation. The real insight is understanding what your salary actually represents in the broader investment framework. Your paycheck isn't the objective. Your paycheck is seed capital for you incorporated. Every successful enterprise needs initial capital to start generating returns. Real estate investors need down payments. Index fund investors need principal to compound. Entrepreneurs need runway to build. Where does that capital originate? For most individuals, it originates from their salary. Your 9 to 5 isn't the investment, it's the investor. When you reframe it this way, everything transforms. You stop perceiving your position as this soul-crushing obligation and start recognizing it as a strategic alliance. They're financing your actual wealth-building activities. The salary they distribute Friday is identical money purchasing your rental property or Vanguard shares Monday. They're a capital partner whether they realize it or not. This explains why advancing individuals aren't those who abandon their positions to pursue passive income with zero runway. They're those who strategically exploit their employment. They maximize every benefit, extract every matching dollar, claim every reimbursement, and then deploy that capital into actual wealth-generating assets. But most people do the opposite. They perceive salary as spending money. They ignore benefits because paperwork is tedious, and then they wonder why they're not building wealth while working full-time. You're operating a business refusing investment capital and rejecting grants. Naturally, you're struggling financially.
Here's the challenge. Most individuals treat their employer like a cash machine instead of a venture capital operation. They appear, extract the base salary, and completely ignore the capitalization table. They leave equity unclaimed. They forfeit their proportional rights. They're essentially telling their largest investor, "Thanks for the term sheet, but I'm only accepting 20% of what you offered." Let me demonstrate with actual figures, because this is where it becomes absurd. The average employer contribution to benefits equals roughly 30% of your base compensation. If you earn $70,000, there's another $21,000 distributed across various benefit categories. Most of that is health insurance, which you're probably using, but buried within are retirement matching, HSA contributions, life insurance, disability coverage, and professional development funds. The question is, are you capturing all of it? Let's examine a scenario. You earn $80,000. Your organization offers a 6% 401k match. That's $4,800 of complementary capital annually. They also offer an HSA with a $1,000 employer contribution. They've got a $3,500 annual education benefit nobody utilizes, and they'll reimburse you $500 yearly for wellness expenses, like gym memberships or ergonomic equipment. Total that, you're examining $9,800 in available capital that most people partially claim or entirely ignore. Over a 30-year career, even without investment growth, that's nearly $300,000. With compound growth at 7%, you're examining close to $1 million in foregone wealth. $1 million because you didn't review the benefits portal. Now here's where it becomes even more fascinating. We've discussed the explicit benefits, the line items in your compensation package, but there's a shadow portfolio most people never consider. I call it strategic resource extraction, and it's completely legitimate. Your employer has infrastructure. They've got software licenses, professional networks, training programs, and institutional knowledge. Every single one of those resources can be leveraged to build your personal capital, and they're essentially encouraging you to use them. Software access. If you work for any decent-sized organization, you probably access tools that would cost you thousands yearly as an individual. Project management software, design tools, data analytics platforms. Learn them, master them. That's not just improving your current position performance, that's building a portable skill set that increases your market value everywhere. Professional networks. Your organization probably sends people to conferences, industry events, training sessions. Attend all of them, not to be a model employee, but because you're building social capital. Every person you meet is a potential future client, partner, or employer. You're networking on organizational time with organizational credit cards. That's a grant-funded business development program. Time arbitrage. Most salaried positions have built-in inefficiency, meetings that could be emails, bureaucratic processes, idle time between projects. The amateur watches streaming content during those gaps. The professional uses that time to build. You can research investment opportunities, take online courses, plan your side venture, or develop new capabilities. You're being compensated to invest in yourself, and nobody's monitoring it because you're delivering on your actual responsibilities. I'm not advocating time theft. I'm advocating time optimization. If you can complete your position responsibilities in 35 hours, but you're compensated for 40, those 5 hours represent arbitrage opportunity. Deploy them strategically. But the deepest level of this entire framework is understanding what salary actually purchases, beyond just the money. Your employment acquires 3 things that are significantly more valuable than people realize: credibility, stability, and optionality. Credibility first. When you're employed, especially at a recognizable organization, you have institutional validation. Banks grant you mortgages, landlords approve your applications, credit cards offer you limits. You can make large purchases and investments that would be impossible as an unemployed person, even with identical cash reserves. Employment is a signal that unlocks doors. Utilize it while you have it. Stability creates runway. When you've got a predictable paycheck, you can take calculated risks with your invested capital. You can purchase rental properties with leverage because you can prove income for the mortgage. You can invest aggressively in the market because you're not depending on those assets for immediate survival. You can start a venture on the side because your living expenses are covered. The salary isn't the wealth. The salary is the safety net that lets you build wealth without fear. Optionality might be the most underrated benefit of all. Every year you stay employed and keep investing, you're purchasing choices. The choice to take a sabbatical, the choice to switch careers, the choice to go part-time, the choice to walk away from a toxic situation because your investments can cover your expenses. Most people think freedom comes from escaping the 9-to-5. That's inverted. Freedom comes from using the 9-to-5 to build sufficient assets that the 9-to-5 becomes optional. That's the entire game. So when people say they want to abandon their position and be free, what they're really saying is they want optionality without having built the foundation for it. They want the exit before they've executed the strategy. That's not freedom. That's just unemployment with better marketing.
The intelligent approach is completely different. You remain in the game. You extract maximum value from every benefit, every match, every grant. You deploy your salary into income-producing assets. You build skills on organizational time. You leverage organizational resources to increase your market value. And you do all of this while maintaining the credibility and stability that makes aggressive wealth building possible. You're not working for them. They're working for you. They just don't realize it yet. This isn't abstract strategy. Let me show you what this looks like when you actually execute it. Because the difference between knowing this and doing this is the difference between theory and a 7-figure net worth. Year 1. You're earning $65,000. You're maximizing that 401k match, filling the HSA, claiming the tuition reimbursement for a certification that makes you more valuable. You're not spending the salary, you're spending what remains after you've leveraged every benefit. That first year, you might only bank $4,000 in actual savings beyond the retirement accounts. Feels small, feels insignificant, but you've actually moved $15,000 into tax-advantaged accounts and skill development. You're building infrastructure. Year 3, you got promoted because you used that certification. Now you're at $80,000. You kept your lifestyle basically flat. Maybe you upgraded your phone and bought a better mattress because sleep matters, but you didn't move to the luxury apartment. You didn't finance the luxury vehicle. That discipline created a gap. You're now saving $12,000 yearly in taxable accounts on top of maxing retirement. You're not wealthy, but you're liquid, and liquidity is the raw material of opportunity. But here's the trap most people fall into at this stage. They let that extra income blend into their main checking account. Suddenly, they're eating out more, upgrading their car, buying things they don't need because they feel wealthier. You need to treat that raise like a completely separate entity. The moment it hits, transfer it. Don't let it touch your checking account. Don't let it mingle with your grocery money. The second you allow fusion, it evaporates. You're not depriving yourself. You're protecting future you from present you's terrible spending habits. Automation is the difference between people who build wealth and people who just talk about it. Year 5. You've been monitoring the real estate market in your area. A small condo hits the market during a downturn. It's undervalued because it needs cosmetic work. You've got $35,000 saved. You put down 20%, finance the rest at a low rate because your employment makes you creditworthy, and you rent it out. The rent covers the mortgage plus $100. You just purchased an asset using the credibility your position provided, and it's paying for itself. Your position didn't buy that property. Your position made buying that property possible. Year 7. The condo appreciated. You've been making extra payments with your raises while keeping your lifestyle in check. You've got $80,000 in equity. Now you take out a home equity line of credit against it and buy a second property. Now you've got 2 rentals. Your W-2 income is still your stability, but your net worth is starting to compound independently. The salary is the fuel. The assets are the engine. Now maybe you want to accelerate this timeline. This is where you have to stop being a loyal employee and start acting like a business closing a deal. Every time you switch employers, you're essentially closing one investment round and opening another with better terms. You're negotiating a new valuation for you, Inc. The people who stay at one organization for 20 years out of loyalty are leaving millions on the table. Not because their employer is malicious, but because they aren't forcing a renegotiation of terms. When you switch, you reset the capitalization table. You get a signing bonus. That's a capital injection. You get a salary bump. That's more runway. By year 10, you haven't just saved money. You've actively traded up to investors who offer better liquidity. Year 10. Your 401k has been growing at 7% annually with consistent contributions and the match. It's sitting at over $200,000. Your HSA, which you've been maximizing and never touching, is at $45,000. You've got 3 rental properties generating $1,800 monthly in positive cash flow after expenses. Your taxable brokerage account has $120,000 in index funds. Your total net worth just crossed $600,000. You're still working the same position, or maybe you switched organizations for a raise and better benefits. But here's the thing, you're not dependent on the position anymore. You're leveraging it. This is when the psychology flips. Most people at this stage feel trapped by their lifestyle. You feel liberated by your assets. If your manager is unreasonable, you can walk. If a better opportunity appears in a different city, you can take it because your rental properties are managed and your investments are portable. You're not chained to the paycheck. You're optimizing the paycheck. Now, let's address the objection I know you're forming. Rob, this sounds great, but I don't make $80,000. I'm at $45,000 and barely surviving. Fair, so let's run those numbers. $45,000 salary after taxes, maybe $34,000 take-home. If your organization offers a 401k match, even a 3% match, that's $1,350 of complementary capital annually. If they offer an HSA-eligible health plan, you can contribute the minimum to get the tax deduction. Let's say you save $2,000 yearly through strategic benefit use. That's $3,350 you didn't have before you understood the system. It's not retirement next year, but it's the foundation. The game scales to your income level. The principles don't change. You're still extracting maximum value from benefits. You're still keeping lifestyle inflation under control. You're still building liquidity. The timeline stretches, sure, but the math works at every income level because the math is about percentages and discipline, not absolute numbers. And here's what nobody tells you about this path. It gets easier, exponentially easier. The first $50,000 is a grind. The second $50,000 comes faster because your assets are working. The third $50,000 feels almost automatic because compounding is doing heavy lifting. By the time you hit $500,000 in net worth, your investments are generating more annual growth than you're contributing. You've hit escape velocity. The position is still useful for benefits and credibility, but it's no longer the primary driver of your wealth. That's the end game. Not abandoning your position in some dramatic walkout, not retiring at 35 to live in a van. The end game is reaching a point where your position serves you instead of you serving it, where employment is a strategic choice, not a survival requirement, where you show up because the benefits are valuable and the work is interesting, not because you'll be homeless without the paycheck. Your employer thinks they own your time. Let them think that. Meanwhile, you're running a parallel operation where their salary funds your equity, their benefits build your safety net, and their credibility opens doors they'll never walk through. You're not their employee, you're an investor, extracting maximum return from a corporate partnership. The real deception isn't that positions underpay you. The real deception is that most people never realize their position is the best investor they'll ever have, offering free capital, tax advantages, and institutional backing, and they walk away from it chasing freedom they haven't funded yet. Don't be most people. Extract everything. Build quietly. Leave when the math says you can, not when your feelings dictate you should.